Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Renee Allen, the People's MC, with Sister to Sister 2.0 with Jamie Foster Brown. I'm here with the Donald Lawrence, Grammy Award winning singer, songwriter, producer, and the list goes on. How are you, Donald?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great and so excited about this interview.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to talk with you as well.
Thank you so much. You look great too. I love that color.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Listen, let's take us all the way back where it all started in Gastonia, North Carolina.
Yeah, that's where I grew up. I was born in Charlotte, but I grew up in Gastonia, which is about like it's a town, but it's really like 30 minutes outside of Charlotte. So big city would consider it a suburb.
Yes, yes. So how did all this start? Music in your life and the church, how did all this start?
Music for me just showed up. I grew up with my aunt. I didn't grow up with my mom or my dad. I grew up with my mom's sister, my aunt. And, she just always would say, child, I don't know where you came from, because I would just do things. And she was just like, I don't know where you got that from. But as I grew up older, and I've gotten to know a little bit of my dad's family, they're very musical. It's opera singers, it's theory teachers, it's conductors, it's musicians. It's just a lot of musicians on that side. So I think it was just genetic. And even though I was around music growing up, definitely with my cousins and things at church. But some of the things that I ended up doing, I wasn't around that. Like, I wasn't cultured with theater, but musical theater just showed up in me. And I just think that's a little bit of my dad's genes and genetics that made a lot of the more artistic stuff show up.
Yes, yeah. Thank goodness for that DNA, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's a
thank God,
thing.
yeah. And thank God for family, of course. And God
Family,
bless your sister
absolutely.
for that. Yes, yes. Listen, I want to hear all about um, how you and the Tri-City Singers started. That is so important to this interview.
Okay, cool. Well, again, like, I grew up in Gastonia, North Carolina, and after growing up in through high school, I went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. I studied musical theater there. That's my education. Came home, got into some things at PTL, because PTL was booming back then. If you don't know what PTL is, it's a Jim and Tammy Baker theme park, which at that particular time was second to Disney. This is a lot of
Yes.
tourism. And I used to write a lot of music, choir music. And one of my friends was the choir director of Tri-City Singers. His name is Richard Odom. And he was with the choir. And while being at PTL for a minute, I ended up getting the job of being Stephanie Mills' musical director. So I was out on the road and I had all these choir songs. When I would come home from off the road, they would be singing my songs. I said, this choir is really great. Whenever I get ready to do a choir album on my material, I just want to do an album on them and let them do it. By the time I got ready to do it, he wasn't with the choir anymore. The choir was about 15 people. So I went to them. I said, I still want to do this album, but I want to reestablish the choir. I want to style it. I want to just give it a sound. So what I did was I got about 17 of my childhood singing friends and mixed it with the 15 or so that was there, and we reestablished the whole choir. And I taught them this music and went into coaching, teaching them the styling that I wanted to do, bring this more urban kind of choir thing to the forefront. The rest is just history. When people ask me, where did you get it from? Why did you guys look the way you look? What inspired the style? I was like, well, during that time, it was a lot of choirs, and I was wondering, how could we come and be a choir and find our own lane? Because it was Ricky Diller, it was Hezekiah, it was Atlanta Draper, it was the Thompson Community, it was LA Mass, it was Mississippi Mass, it was just so many choirs. And I was like, how can we find our own lane? And I was inspired by Soul to Soul from the UK, and I was inspired by Arrested Development, and shortly after that, Badu came, and so our style really was more. I was really inspired by Soul to Soul and Arrested Development. So I wanted a choir to kind of stylize like them, because I felt like it would be timeless but still be fashion. Then I loved Luther, and I loved Crouch, and I loved Thomas Whitfield. So I just implemented all that stuff along with my own things. And my hero as a producer is Teddy Riley. It was, that's my era, the New Jack era. So a lot of that New Jack with choir was inspired by me listening to him and wanting to produce by him. He's the one reason why I wanted to produce, because I loved his music. I identified with the beats. It reminded me of church. And so once I kind of put all that together in a pot with my own style, what you had was the Tri-City Singers. And that's really how that whole thing came about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And You know, what is the Tri-State? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, Tri-City Singers is from three cities in the Carolinas. It's Greenville, Spartanburg, it's Columbia, South Carolina. Those are South Carolinas. Then it's Charlotte, North Carolina. But if you can travel that in a circle, so that's the Tri-City right there. There's some other like Greensboro as well, because we have some singers from Greensboro. But it's really that little belt right there, two states, North and South Carolina, Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Columbia, South Carolina, like that kind of belt right there.
Okay, thank you for
So they're
that.
both from the
DMV.
Carolinas, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Carolinas,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, similar to the DMV.
Yeah.
No,
You
right
know,
there.
their style was so cutting edge. When we first came out, everybody thought we were from LA. And I was like, no, there is just country people from the Carolinas. They're not from LA at all. Yes, but most people thought we were from the West Coast.
You're so humble. You said the country people, right?
Yeah, yeah, you know,
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing about being just Southern and just chilled, and you know, it's cool.
yeah, absolutely. It is cool. Listen, let's go back to 1993, your first album. Let's talk about that.
Wow, seems like yesterday, but now it seems so long ago. The first album was again me wanting to do what I told you, and what I had all these songs that I collected, and while I was out on the road with Stephanie Mills, you know, as her musical director, I loved the way our shows felt. We had these beats on stage, and the guys, I had some of my singers out with me, some of my best friends that were male singers, and we would just have this energy on stage. And I was like, what and why we can't do a choir album like this? I wanted to have this band arrangement, this kind of accompaniment, these beats on stage, but it just be quiet to my music. So what I did was I just took all of that I learned while being out on the road with Stephanie and put it to my own things, you know. So in 1993, this was kind of you know, the start of, I guess, urban choirs, because what I did was we took the elements that I would use out on the road with Stephanie. We had like a beat machine on stage, and I had the choir and band, and when it was time to record, we just kicked that beat in and just went for it. And the audience was, I really wish I had video recorded that recording, because the audience stood the whole time. They were just mesmerized. They couldn't believe it. They didn't know what it was. All they know is that it was great. And we had church, but at the same time, people danced, they grooved. It was just a little bit of everything. So I think it was the first, you know, that really brought in the whole idea of like urban choir kind of thing with beats and choirs. And now when I hear somebody start off a record and the beat starts and then they go, I just go like, wow, I can't believe myself and the team were really the first people to really kind of bring that thing forward, you know.
Yeah, you're really a trailblazer. You carved your own lane, a whole
Yeah.
new sound. No one sounds like you. Let's talk about these 7 nominees and 6 wins for this album and all that you were doing throughout the decades.
Oh wow. You talking about, yeah, you know, it was beautiful then, because that particular album, of course, Stephanie came and she guested on that album, Songwriter's Point of View. My friend and people, Bryson, came and guested with me on that album because he had done a play of mine during that time, and one of the songs that was in the play, we recorded it. So he did that. Of course, it was just me doing what I did. And honestly, it wasn't about as much about being in the business as much as it was just to express my art. And I still kind of have an artist heart. You know, I can think about the business a little bit, but mostly I'm going to think about the art. It's just, I love authentic art of what God has given me, and I love to see people do their authentic art. So it was really about the art, and you know, from then on, just continuing to do what I do. It always has a little bit of theater in it, because that's kind of probably my number one thing. Musical theater, Broadway is just like my number one passion. And so my music tends to have a little theatrical edge to it, but it's organically me. And you know, it was just a beautiful ride, you know.
Did you say a little theatrical?
Yeah, just a little bit of theater.
I'm mesmerized when I look at your videos. I mean, it's just a work of art.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It starts
it's
like
a beautiful statement.
Yeah, it really is. And then I watched a few last night and today, and I was just blown away, because it's like a musical, magnetic light hums to like a powerful magical force, you know?
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that music is about how we feel it. I always say this: people think they like what they hear, but they like what they feel. And if you really are coming from a pure place and feeling it from a pure place, people feel that, you know, no matter what it is, they do. So I've always just learned to approach. I learned it from my heroes, from, you know, from the Andre Crouches and the Hawkins and Smallwood and Clarks of the world to just be me, but come from a pure and organic place, you know.
Yes. Well, speaking of, we can segue into some of your collaborations because I've looked at those too, which are very
Yeah,
impressive.
a lot of them. Yeah,
Talk about Kirk Franklin's and all the collaborations you've done. Can you expound
yeah.
on that a little bit?
Man, I've worked with so many people. Layla Hathaway, Faith Evans, Kelly Price, Clark's sisters, Yolanda Adams, Kirk Franklin, Marvin Sapp, Donnie McClurkin. I've kind of worked with just about everybody, especially on this side, but a lot of urban artists as well. Coco from SWV. You know, it's very few people that I haven't gotten a chance to work with that I would like to work with. Just because I've done so much. Stevie Wonder. You know, it's really been fun to just kind of be able to write and hear voices that you've loved and art that you've loved on your songs. That's just been a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, Karen Clark Sheard, the Clark sisters. It's just been fun to just be able to listen to people that you admired, you know, and have them do your music. One person that I never got to work with, who I am still a diehard fan, I still go and study him like he's a textbook, was Luther Vandross. He was like one of my heroes. Like, he's just genius, not just as a singer, but as a background vocal arranger, and just his approach to art. He was so, I'm probably as meticulous as him when it comes to music. I remember going to his concerts. They were just the epitome of perfection, but still had that heart. And that's one person I really regret I did not get a chance to work with.
Well, you know, if I do say so myself, you remind me a lot of him because
A lot of people say that a lot, you know. Yeah.
yeah, you've done it all, and then you know how to capture and keep everyone on edge, and that's why everyone was standing up, you know, back in my I'm sure. I was dancing in my kitchen.
Yeah, he for me is a big hero. I think that he was just a genius, you know.
Yeah, I feel the same about you, and Sister to Sister 2.0 is a big fan of yours.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Let's get into Goshen, because right now with what's going on in the world, we need some Goshen, don't we?
Yeah, you know, I started creating this project in my mind, and in 2015, I went back and saw some of the notes. I was like, God, I didn't realize I had started this idea back then. And it was to tell the story of the Exodus in a new way, to really dig deeper and give another spiritual meaning of what happened. And what I found out was, you know, not that I didn't know, I just didn't pay attention to it as detail, was that Israel lived in this place called Goshen, but it was a safety place, and God had blessed it, and it was a place of protection, a place of peace. So when calamity was happening in Egypt, Goshen was at peace. And so what I decided was, okay, this album is Goshen, and I usually use this as a statement of it. Goshen is a spiritual oasis, a spiritual zip code, and those who reside there in spirit, mind, and body achieve against all odds. So that's what happened to Israel. No matter what came at them, they still ended up achieving against all of the odds that came with them. So Goshen is God's protection, or God's protected place. And so sometimes I say, may God's Goshen be with you. It just means may God's protection be with you, your family, and those connected to you. And of course, I never knew that we would end up living a real life Goshen. Like, I never knew that some of the passages in the album speaks about plagues, and a song follows it. I never knew the world would actually go through that, and I would experience. So it was something that was kind of written prior to really having to live it. So it makes me look at the album in a whole different way right now, you know.
Yeah. And as I was reading about that, I thought about this time. We've had many crises in the past. I'm sure we'll have some in the future. But right now, how does that make you feel to have come up with something so spectacular, and then it is mirroring what's happening today? How are you getting through that?
I mean, you know, it makes me step back. I think musically, I tend to write a little in the future anyway, and I catch up with it. But this one makes me step back and go like, Donald, where did you go and come back with this? Because I do feel like true artists, not just gospel artists, they go somewhere and they bring the art back. And I think I just go, I don't know where you went when you. I mean, of course, I think it was God, and I definitely think, you know, it was some message He wanted to say. But it's just uncanny to see it now. And one of the songs that a lot of people are singing now and going back to was a song called Jehoshaphat Sabaoth, and it really speaks of a God who governs angel armies. It really means Lord of hosts, or a God who governs an army of angels. And it speaks about how we have angels encamped around us to protect us during troubled times. And a lot of people are going and singing that. It's based off Psalms 91. And it just speaks of the God who governs angel armies has set encampments around me. Whom or what shall I fear?
Wow, wow. Let's talk about some of the music on the Goshen album.
Sure.
What is your favorite and why?
You know, I don't know if I have a favorite because it tells a story, but one song that, okay, it's a couple of songs. One song that I love because of the research, because of how I was able to put such a complex idea into song, is a song called YHWH. It's called The Sound of My Breathing. It features Jacqueline Carr, who's a great young singer. She's amazing. But the story behind the song is based on Moses when he went to speak to God, and in the whole burning bush scenario. He asked God his name, and most people go like God said, "Tell them I am sent you." But prior to that, there was a sound of the wind. And when you study Hebrew and what God's name is, we call him God, but that's not his name. That's what he is, but not who he is. God's original name is 4 Hebrew consonants. It's symbols, but when you kind of take the symbols and you translate it to English lettering, it becomes YHWH. And it's 4 consonants, so you can't pronounce it because consonants can't make a word. And it's ironic that God would create a name that you can't speak, even in any language. Every language, it comes up to consonants. What the story behind that is this. When you take the consonants apart, YH and the WH, I studied phonetics in theater. So when you take the YH, it makes you go, and the WH makes you go. And the more you do that is, so God's original name is our breath. His name is the sound of our breathing. So anytime that you breathe, you're speaking God's name. And it's ironic that when we come in the world, we take our first breath, we go out of the world, we take our last breath. We say God all through our lives. And once we stop breathing, once we stop saying God, we're no longer here. So that song is called The Sound of My Breathing. God, your name is the sound of my breathing. I speak your name every time I breathe. And it made other passages of scripture make sense to me too. Passage that says that everything that has breath, praise the Lord. That really means everything that's breathing is always praising God. Or I will bless the Lord at all times. His praises shall continuously be in my mouth. It really is just saying that I'm always praising God because I'm always breathing. His praises are always in my mouth because I'm always saying his name. So it just made these scriptures turn into something else for me. So that song particularly is one of those deep songs for me. But of course, everyone loves the story with Leandria and Deliver Me. It's just powerful within itself. I couldn't have put that together if I tried. It just happened. It's what I felt. It's what I heard. We had been singing the song a year before we recorded it. It just was that moment that was meant to happen. And I'm glad it touched so many million people around the world.
Wow, I am as well. Listen, I opened by saying the Donald Lawrence, but now I'm going to say Dr. Donald Lawrence, because you are really you are educating the people. Thank you so much. When you said that, the breath and the ooh and the ah,
yeah,
come on. I felt that.
It is, and I studied that, and I really found that to be such a fascinating thing and it's beautiful. There's a line in the song that says, it says, "Who am I that you are mindful of me? Creator my God, that you breathe life into me." It said, in this one line that I said, "You have gifted your DNA to me, that I speak, that I speak your name every time I breathe." I love that line. You gifted your DNA to me, that I speak your name. Who wouldn't love a God that gifts you with his DNA so that you can breathe? And that line is beautiful to me.
Ooh, you made me want to sing. Okay. Those words sound like music to my ears. I'm sure everyone else's. Listen, tell us something that's happened that's been one of your favorite experiences, during Donald Lawrence's life and or with the Tri-City Choir.
You know, I've had so many experiences. I tell people this all the time. I said, you know, I got a lot put on my plate very, very young. And I think I missed a lot of experiences because I was so in it. I didn't take it in. You know, I was just so young and there was so much on my plate to be so young. I didn't want to fail. I wanted to make sure everything was good. So I think I missed really just breathing in experiences by working through the experiences. Tri-City, we had so many beautiful, beautiful experiences, but I guess they would love, I know they loved the first album. That was a beautiful experience. They loved that album. But I think they also loved doing Karen Clark's Finally Karen. That's another moment in gospel music history I think that people will always remember. For me, Donald Lawrence, the producer, creative, I think one of my beautiful moments was growing up, I was such a Clark sister fanatic. And
Yes.
I always wanted them, I always felt like they didn't get the just due that they should have gotten. And they were always big. But you know, I wanted them to just people know just how brilliant Twinkie was and how brilliant they were. So to come many years later and produce an album that won them their first, like was a triple Grammy win, but it won them their first Grammys of 30 years, I never would have thought I would have had a hand in that. So that's probably one of the biggest moments for me because I love the Clarks so much and I wanted to see them get that moment. And that was a beautiful moment for them. It was beautiful. So that's one at heart for me.
It's funny you said that. We just interviewed them a few days ago. You know, they're going to be having their movie this Saturday on Lifetime.
Oh
So
yes.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that from you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually did all the music for the movie.
What? Whoa, come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah,
Donald
absolutely.
Lawrence.
I absolutely did all the music for the movie. I trained the actors. Actually, the actors are singing the Clarks. The Clarks didn't do it. I trained the actors to sing like the Clarks. It's going to be very uncanny. Even when I let them hear some of it, they couldn't believe it. They thought I got Twinkie to come and do some of the overdubs, but it's all the actors. They all sang the music, and it's a really powerful story. I can't wait for everybody to see it. I'm so excited about it.
Wow, I'm excited. I have another reason now to sit on my couch with popcorn and everything and take it all
Yeah,
in.
it's gonna be good. It's really good. It's a good story. The singing is great. It's not, you know, the Clark sisters, they got their own beehive, so you can't mess with their songs unless you do it right. But I think it's done right. I think I was such obsessed with Twinkie and their sound so much that I was able to go back and detail it and take you back in time because a lot of the movie is based on the 70s, 80s, and 90s era. So it's about taking you back to that time so you could feel what we felt experiencing them back then. So it's really, really beautiful.
Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations on that, by the
Thank
way.
you.
You're welcome. Now, can I ask you about the BeBe Winans story? I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, BeBe is my good friend. I always tell him he gets on my nerves, but I love him to death. Because, you know, BeBe, you don't work with him. He treats you like you work for him sometimes. When I have to correct him, say, look, I'm not one of your employees. I'm working with you. That's my buddy. I love BeBe. You know, he did his musical, which is going to go to Broadway soon. It's called Born for This. And it's really about his tenure with growing up, him and Cece, their tenure at PTO, Jim and Tammy Faye Baker's music part, then going on to work with Whitney and all the other people. Well, BeBe knew I had education in musical theater. He knew I also knew gospel music. He also knew that I knew urban AC because I worked with Stephanie, and his time is at 80s, early 90s. So he was like the perfect, and he knew that I worked at PTL because I worked there. So he knew I would know all sounds authentically. So he wanted me to come in and like kind of arrange the vocals and work with the band and really make sure the music was right. So I did that. I worked with him on that piece for about 4 years because it really takes a minute to build something to go to Broadway. It's incredible. I'm so proud of him. And plus, he really made me have that love of theater show up so much to where that's why you end up with a Goshen, because I was so far in Broadway with him. My choir said, oh, I can tell you've been hanging out on Broadway with BeBe because Goshen was so theatrical. It was like, we can tell you've been. I said, oh yeah, I've been there for like the last couple of years, you know, working and rolling with BeBe. So his music, I can't wait for everybody to see it. It's incredible. They're gonna love it. It's incredible. I'm so proud of him. And it's just a great work. I can't wait for Broadway to open back up and things open back up, and you get to see that because it's a great work. It's a wonderful story, fascinating, and he just did a great job with writing it and writing the music for it. It's just really great.
Yes, thank you for that. Listen, you kind of slid by when I talked about all the Stellar Awards and the
Ah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
for the NAACP nomination and Image Awards.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I think I have 22 stellars, 22 stellars,
Wow.
maybe 4 or 5 doves. I don't, after a while, you don't keep up with them. You just kind of get them and
Yeah.
collect them and kind of put them in a closet somewhere. But I'm thankful, but it just doesn't. I'm really thankful that during this particular time where, choir music is not the most featured music now. For Goshen, the album Goshen, to get the most nominations for Stellar Awards this year. Stellar Awards was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago, but due to what's happening there, they postponed it till later on in the year. But Goshen was nominated for 9 Stellar Awards. It came in as the leading nominee this year. So I'm really proud of that because it was a stretch. It's not, that album is definitely not the most commercial album from now. It's strictly artistic, and Donald Lawrence being artistic. But I'm really glad that people really loved it and really appreciated the work. Because I was nervous at first when I turned it in. I said, I love this. I had a ball doing it, but I hope I messed y'all up because I don't know what y'all gonna be able to do with this because it's just out there. But people really gravitated to it and they really enjoyed it. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah. And I'm working on
Yeah,
actually a theatrical version of it too.
wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
I did listen to it. It's very upbeat and
Hmm.
pulls you in.
Yeah,
I
storytelling. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Is there anything that you want to share with Sister to Sister 2.0 viewers around the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to encourage everybody to be your authentic self. I think that's really beautiful. And the other thing, Goshen was to premiere here. Broadway in Chicago was premiering Goshen Dance Theater. It was a collaboration of the storytelling with a dance theater group here, which is, I would say, the equivalent to Alien New York. It's called Deeply Rooted Dance Theater. We'd come together and we were presenting the world premiere of Goshen on stage, which was dance theater and choral working on stage together, telling this particular story of the album. I wrote the album with that in mind. To make it a theatrical piece, to tour it. And of course, we had to cancel it with what's going on now. We probably won't get back to it until 2021, but I want everybody to look out for that. But most importantly, I'm more about everybody not being afraid to just be uniquely yourselves, because we live in a time to where if you don't do it like someone else, they just feel like it's not going to work because they create this one little pattern and you need to do it like that so you can roll around. Sometimes you just have to take the risk and be you. That's what's made the most beautiful artists. That's why you can love Michael Jackson, then you can turn around and love Prince. You can love Janet, then you can turn around and love Shaka. I think art is authentic to the person and not a cookie cutter formula. So I want to encourage all artistic people, be uniquely artistic. It's a beautiful thing to just see somebody be uniquely themselves.
It certainly is, and it has been such a pleasure to watch you with your unique self and artistic self. And I'll tell you, it's full circle. I mean, people are looking for more artistic music and things that really matter and touch the heart. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Ocean. I'm looking forward to being able to see all of it and to catch up with what's going on and what's been canceled. So I'm sure Sister
Thank
to
you.
Sister will be on top of everything for you.
Okay, please do. Definitely. When we get ready to do the premiere again, please come.
I would love to. I would love
All
to.
right.
Donald Lawrence, you are beautiful, inside, outside.
Thank you
I
so
have
much. So you.
enjoyed you so much.
All
And
right.
is there one last word you have?
I think I'm good. I think other than may God's Goshen be with you.
And may God's Goshen be with you as well. Thank you so much.
Yes.
God bless you, Donald
All
Lawrence.
right. What's up, everyone? This is Donald Lawrence with Sister to Sister 2.0.